And welcome to week 2 of consumer behavior. And we are looking at chapter 2, consumer and social well-being. So our learning objectives for this particular chapter is delving into some ethical issues and corporate social responsibility, consumer privacy, sustainability, and things like that. So we're looking at ethical business as good business and that we have an obligation to provide safe and functional products as part of our business activities. We're also considering how consumer behavior impacts directly on major public policy issues that confront our society and how consumer behavior can be harmful to individuals and to society as well. So let's get started with our first learning objective. In that ethical business is good business. If we look at the AMA, the American Marketing Association, and their recommendations for ethical business, we are, as marketers and as business individuals, our purpose is to do good to our consumers and society as a whole. It can be difficult to avoid ethical conflicts because our thoughts of what is right and wrong vary among people, organizations, and cultures. These cultural differences certainly influence whether business practices such as bribery are acceptable. Bribing foreigners to gain business has been against the law in the United States since 1977 under the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, to which most individualized countries belong, also outlaws bribery. Still, these practices are common in many countries. In some countries, bribery is part of the business process, and it's actually an expectation, and you'll lose a deal if you don't include bribery. But we have to look at where we're working and with whom we are working. Business ethics, they are rules of conduct that guide actions in the marketplace and cultural differences in what is considered ethical. So what might be ethical in one part of the United States might be totally unethical in another part. We're talking again about needs and wants, and we've got 4 different types that the book covers. Consumer space is an environment where individuals dictate to companies the type of products they want and how, when, and where they want to learn about these products. Materialism refers to the importance people attach to worldly possessions. One important dimension today is provenance. Shoppers are willing to pay more for an item when they know exactly where it comes from, and they are assured that real people have thoughtfully selected the things from which they choose. Curation refers to an expert who carefully chooses pieces to include in a museum exhibit. Now applies to a range of consumer products such as food, clothing, and travel. Do we manipulate consumers? Advertisers simply do not know enough about people to manipulate them. In reality, the failure rate for new products range from 40 to 80%. And although people may think that advertisers use magic to sell the products, marketers are only successful when they promote good products. One of the concerns in regards to marketing, and marketing is commonly criticized, is trying to convince consumers that they need something when they really don't. This is an ethical issue. Marketers respond to this question by pointing out that the need already exists in the consumer, but marketers recommend ways to satisfy that need. And remember that, get my pen writing here again. Oops, wrong one. Here. That the need is a basic biological motive. It's something that we need in order to survive. And the want is going above that need. And it's one way that society has taught us that the need can be satisfied. So does advertising foster materialism? Yeah, we can say that advertising and marketing are necessary because consumers may not know that solutions to problems exist without the information provided by advertising and marketing. This is the view of the economics of information perspective. It points out that there is an economic cost to searching for information. So advertising helps consumers by reducing search time. Products are designed to meet existing needs, and advertising only helps to communicate their availability. So let's think about this. Advertisers are often blamed for promoting a materialistic society, all right, by making their products as desirable as possible. That's what advertising is because we're dealing with the competition. So do you agree with this? If you If yes, is materialism a bad thing? And if no, what are your reasons? Do Americans today, do we go beyond what we really need and we fall into that materialism perspective? So what are your thoughts on that? All right, so let's look on further that marketers, we do have an obligation to provide safe and functional products as part of our business activities. And it's almost every other day anymore. We see class action lawsuits where consumers have been harmed in one thing or another and filing suit against large corporations. I have been getting several recall notices on my BMW where the airbags are unsafe. We can come up with all kinds of examples of unsafe and dysfunctional products that have been put out there. When brands fail to satisfy, consumers have three options. They can voice their response, where they complain publicly through social media or different websites like that. They can do a private response where they just kind of complain and talk about their dissatisfaction with family or friends. Or the third party response is where we get very monetary, and that means that they're taking legal action or going through an organization like the Better Business Bureau. So when a company has found that they have advertised inappropriately, we have what we call corrective advertising, in that the company must inform consumers that previous messages were wrong or misleading. We also have what we call culture jamming, which is a strategy to disrupt efforts by the corporate world to dominate our cultural landscape. Those are interesting topics to look into as you read the chapter, especially this corporate jamming. This here is a list of some of the U.S. regulatory agencies that we have to pay attention to. This is one of those things that when you're doing your SWOT analysis for your company, this is one of those potential threats or maybe opportunities, but a lot of times they're threats. It's things that you can't control, but it's regulations that are set up that we have to abide by, or we can be fined, or customers could maybe be harmed or something on down the line. You might want to read over these and be familiar with them. The FDA, we hear about those a lot. Federal Trade Commission, FTC, Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, and the EPA. You hear a lot about those. So you want to be familiar, when you get out into your careers, you want to know what regulatory agencies oversee your company, and be sure you're very familiar with their regulations. We have what we call transformative consumer research, the TCR, and it promotes research projects to include the goal of helping people who are bringing about social change. So we're looking at social marketing here, and these are strategies that use marketing techniques to encourage positive behaviors. And we see this a lot of times in advertising where we're trying to promote an idea. Remember that an idea is a type of product in the marketing mix. So you might want to increase literacy or discourage negative activities such as drunk driving. Can you think of any others? Maybe click it or ticket, give blood, recycle, things like that is considered social marketing. And then we also have what we call CSR, or corporate social responsibility. Now, the social marketing, as I mentioned, encourages positive behavior and discourages negative activities. And it's techniques you use to employ. Social marketing strategies use the techniques that marketers normally employ to sell beer or detergent to encourage those positive behaviors, such as increased literacy, and discourage the negative activities such as drinking and driving. The CSR is where we're encouraging organizations to make a positive impact on stakeholders. And remember that stakeholders is anyone that can be affected by the brand. It can be people right now in the current time, or it can be people that aren't even born yet in the future. So if it's a company that's damaging the environment, for example, the stakeholders that will be born 20 years from now can be affected by that. So they have a social responsibility to all stakeholders. Remember that that's the difference between shareholders. Those are people that own shares in a company. This is stakeholders, people that have a stake in the company. And then cause marketing is where you align businesses with a particular cause. And we see that a lot today. So do you purchase a certain product because of their cause? And why? Is there something that, you're willing to pay a little extra money just because you know that a portion of the benefits is going to a particular cause? And do you think these organizations, do they support the cause for the profits just as a promotional tactic, or because they really do want to be active in their communities? Consumer behavior does impact directly on major public policy issues that confront our society. And some of the issues facing consumers include data privacy and identity theft, market access, and sustainability. For your written assignment that's due this Sunday, one of the things you're going to be researching is the new GDPR. It's the new policy in regards to privacy, consumer privacy, and everything that's been going on in the recent months with like Facebook and hackers getting into the corporate computers and things like that. I'm surprised that these policies haven't gotten stricter sooner than what they did. Data breaches at major companies such as Target, Sony, and Home Depot continue to worry many people. I know it worries me, and I'm sure it worries you as well. The federal government is actively engaged with this problem, and a variety of legislative proposals are being considered, including the Personal Data Notification and Protection Act of 2015, that would strengthen the obligations companies have to notify customers when their personal information has been exposed. And then there's the Student Digital Privacy and Parental Rights Act of 2015 that would prevent companies from selling online data of K to 12th grade students to third parties, or otherwise sharing information unless it's for school-related purposes only. Real-time bidding, an electronic trading system that sells ad space on web pages people click on at the moment they visit them. Today, we increasingly fall prey to high-tech phishing scams in which people receive fraudulent emails that ask them to supply account information, as well as botnets, which is a set of computers that are penetrated by malicious software known as malware that allows external agents to control their actions. That hijacked millions of computers without any trace. Locational privacy is related to consumers that have GPS on their cell phones. So market access relates to the ability to find and purchase goods and services. And there's some things that we have to look at here to make sure that consumers have access to the market. Disabled people are the largest minority market in the United States. 1 in 5 U.S. adults live with a disability that interferes with their daily life. A food desert is a census tract where 33% of the population, or 500 people, whichever is less, live more than a mile from a grocery store in an urban area or more than 10 miles away from in a rural area. So I would definitely live in a food desert. And, in West Virginia, there's probably a lot of food deserts. Media literacy refers to consumers' ability to access, analyze, evaluate, and communicate information in a variety of forms, including print and non-print messages. Functionally illiterate describes a person whose reading skills are not adequate to carry out everyday tasks, such as reading the newspaper or even the instructions on a pill bottle. So sustainability and environmental stewardship, what we're looking at here, and you may recall this from back in, if you had me in Principles of Marketing, is a triple bottom line orientation. Remember the different orientations? You had a product orientation, a sales orientation, a market orientation, and then some call it a societal marketing orientation, or this triple bottom line, in which the company is focused on their finances, because they want to make a profit. That's what we're in business for. But they're also looking at social and environmental factors as well. Conscientious consumerism relates to when a customer's focus on personal health is merging with a growing interest in global health. And we see this increasing more and more. We have what we call green marketing, greenwashing, and then LOHAS, I guess you could say that as LOHAS. Green marketing describes a strategy that involves development and promotion of environmentally friendly products and stressing this attribute when the manufacturer communicates with consumers. We see, green marketing is a big deal in today's world. I've even seen water bottles. Several years ago, a lot of the bottled water manufacturers, such as Deer Park or whatever, they changed the shape of their bottle so that it contained the same amount of water, but it used less plastic. Now, greenwashing, on the other hand, occurs when companies make a false or exaggerated claim about how environmental friendly their products are. And you don't want to get caught greenwashing, because it will definitely hurt your reputation. The LOHAS, which is an acronym for Lifestyles of Health and Sustainability. And this label refers to people who worry about the environment. They want products to be produced in a sustainable way, and they spend money to advance what they see as their personal development and potential. More or less, it's kind of like the health nuts and the tree huggers. You might hear that common phrase. Although these people, and I'm one of them in there, and we're concerned about the health of the people in our nation. We're concerned about the environment and things like that. We want a beautiful world for our kids, and a healthy world for our children and our grandchildren, and further on down. So would you prefer to purchase from a restaurant that composts? They're using sustainability and corporate social responsibility there to to watch out for the environment. And what are some sustainable methods used here on campus? What have you noticed around on campus that different departments might do to help sustain the environment and try to take care of the things that we can? So finally, we're going to look at consumer behavior, how it can be harmful to individuals and to society. We have what we call cyber terrorism and guerrilla marketing, and that is one goofy looking dude on that advertisement, and it would catch your attention. So consumer terrorism, that's when consumers may suffer from attacks from others. And it always boggles my mind that people do this just for fun. They don't realize how much they're hurting people, but they will hack into computers and steal your identities and stuff like that just for fun. It's crazy. But cyber terrorism is a politically motivated use of computers and information technology to cause severe disruption or widespread fear in society. It was a little unnerving when we found out that NASA mainframe was broken into. Guerrilla marketing is an innovative, unconventional, and a low-cost marketing technique aimed at obtaining maximum exposure for a product. And then we kind of look at some consumption of consumers. One of you mentioned something about finding it interesting that we're going to look at the disposal of products by consumers. And this is getting into that use and disposal of products, in that consumers become addicted sometimes to certain products. It's easy to see addiction in things like tobacco and alcohol, but there's even addictions in other types of products as well. Social media addiction is compared to, by some, as a chemical dependency. Cyberbullying refers to the willful and repeated harm inflicted through the use of computer, cell phones, and other electronic devices. Phantom vibration syndrome describes the tendency to habitually reach for your cell phone because you feel it vibrating, even if it's off or you're not even wearing it at times. Has that ever happened to you? It has me. It has me. Or if you hear someone else's phone ringing, see how many people check their phones in a room. It's very interesting. And then compulsive consumption refers to repetitive and often excessive shopping performed as an antidote to tension, anxiety, depression, or boredom. And in marketing, we should never, ever, ever use these forms of addiction to our benefit. These are harmful. Consumers sometimes don't even realize that they deal with these things, but we should avoid at all costs using these types of negative impressions in advertising or in any marketing strategy. And the dark side of consumer behavior, consumed consumers may even become products themselves. Consumed consumers are people who are used or exploited, willingly or not, for commercial gain in the marketplace. So for example, prostitutes selling babies, blood, organ, and hair donors, surrogate mothers being paid to carry other people's children. Shrinkage is the industry term for inventory and cash losses from shoplifting and employee theft. Serial wardrobers, or I've also mentioned it as retail borrowing in like the principles of marketing class. That's when someone will buy an outfit, wear it once, and then take it back. It happens. Consumers will change price tags on items maybe, then return one item for the higher amount, and shoppers who use fake or old receipts when they return a product. In today's world, with the cash registers the way they are, the FID codes and things like that, it's harder to do things like that, but it still happens. And in counterfeiting is when companies or individuals sell fake versions of real products to customers. Anti-consumption relates to events in which people deliberately deface or manipulate or mutilate, products or services. So do you know someone who's addicted to social media? Or are you addicted to social media? Yeah. I have to admit, that's one of the first things I do when I get up in the morning. I check LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and I do that before I even look at my email a lot of times. Those of you who work in retail, have you ever experienced consumers habitually returning items? They could be up to something. So that's it for chapter 2. And if you look right below the video there, you're going to see a folder called Tom's Example. And in it is one of my favorite brands, and maybe yours too, is Tom's Shoes. And there's a couple videos in there that talks about their corporate social responsibility and a link to a really good case study in some of the things that they do. But not only do they practice CSR, but they actually get customers involved with their CSR, which really, really builds their reputation. Because any company can say, oh yeah, 10% of our profits are going to Make-A-Wish Foundation or Ronald McDonald House or just whatever. But the founder and CEO of Tom's, he actually gets consumers into the CSR activities and processes, and he will take consumers I think it's every couple weeks maybe, or once a month or something. Consumers can sign up and go on the trips to these third world countries where they actually hand out the shoes. It's very cool. So I encourage you to listen to those videos. One is an actual presentation by the owner, and it is a little lengthy, but it's really good. So remember, this week, discussion post, the initial post due on Thursday. I'd like to see a little more discussion going on. Don't just put something simple and easy. Let's get engaged with each other. And then replies to 3 of your classmates by Sunday night. There'll be a test rolling around. I haven't got it done yet, but it will be up and available. It needs to be completed by Sunday at midnight. And then your written assignment, your first written assignment is due. And as I mentioned, it's on the GDPR. Do a little bit of research. Make sure you use credible, reliable, and timely sources. Read the directions. Let me know if you have any questions. And enjoy the week and the focus on consumer behavior. Thanks. Have a good one. Bye.